And hey, happy Tuesday, folks. We are actually live here. And if you're watching, thank you for coming in on the podcast, Media and Marketing. Thank you. I'm excited today because we have Ali Daniel on the horn here, or actually live. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me, John. Really excited to chat with you.
Yeah, likewise. And I'll do a quick intro, and Ali will expand on that. Explorer of personal growth, happiness, and the true self, founder of punchdrunksoul.com and her path to freedom. That's just a quick snapshot of just a big world we're going to enter into here about entrepreneurship and the journey to freedom and expansion of self and a lot more, which Ali is an expert in. And as I said, I'm excited to have her on, but also because what we like to share are real stories from the trenches, really. It's about, starting at point A and moving forward, right? And so I know you've been there, and we'll be covering a lot more of that kind of discussion here today. But one of the first things I wanted to talk about is, or ask you about is, what is sort of your zone of genius or your expertness, if you will? I know you deal with women mostly, but probably guys too in your business. But I just wanted to zone in on that zone of genius for a moment.
Yeah. So my zone of genius is really helping other people discover their zone of genius and how to actually monetize that. So what I really love to do is help people understand how much knowledge and value and experience they have in their heads, and getting it down onto paper in like a step-by-step process or a methodology that they can go out and use in their business. So specifically, I work with coaches and women who want to be coaches or develop some sort of curriculum or step-by-step process to help people change and grow and transform. Most people come to me with a plethora of knowledge and value, but they just don't see it. They don't know how they can translate that into a business. So I kind of help them pull that out of their head and get it onto paper. That's definitely my zone of genius and like favorite part of what I do.
Oh, that's awesome. And that doesn't come by reading a book or hanging out at a seminar over a weekend or whatever. That requires some experience and probably your own struggles. In fact, that title, Punch Drunk Soul, we're looking at it right now. That's your website. Where did that come from? And what was the source of that? That's a good one.
Yeah. So essentially, when I started my blog, Punch Drunk Soul, I was going through this period of really deep transformation and growth due to getting really sick. I got this autoimmune illness that completely stripped away the life that I had, basically brought me down to ground zero. And so I kind of was, like I said, going through this process of like, who am I? What am I all about? What do I want? What do I want my life to be? And up till that point, I had felt like my soul had just gotten punch drunk. So like in boxing, that's when you've been hit so many times that you're just delirious. You can't differentiate up from down, and you're just like about to pass out. So that's kind of it. It kind of embodied for me what I was feeling, that my soul had just kind of gotten punch drunk. And at the time, and still to this day, I absolutely love to box. It's a huge passion of mine. And so it just kind of combined what I was feeling and my passions into one easy title. So that's kind of how that came to be.
That's great. Yeah, that's it's a great sort of I would say sort of from a branding point of view. It's not. I mean, your name is obviously front and center, but it stands out. It really catches you, and people I'm sure get drawn to that as well. So that's great.
I definitely hear good feedback from it. So yeah, I think it resonates.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, and I'm just kind of scrolling through your site a little bit. It's a lot of information. We'll get to that towards the end. But if you take us back even further than that, because as I mentioned, we talked a lot about entrepreneurships and the struggles and the successes, the ups and downs, the loneliness, where do I go? I'm just like completely like flying blind and everything in between. Where did this start for you? I mean, really, we talked a little bit about kind of, where you felt like your entire being was, slammed to the ground and you're trying to find your place. But even before that, I know you came from a corporate setting, and when did you realize that I have to leave this corporate world and like never look back, right? Which is a whole exercise in itself, which I would love to hear more about. But also, how do you do that and determine, I'm an entrepreneur now, and let's do that whole thing? Because that is a whole couple of some heavy conversations going on, from obviously just mentally, but also, hey, how do I pay the bills, right? How do I scale this up? Because I haven't proven myself yet. And I think that'd be super valuable to have you talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. So going way, way back, I felt like growing up, I always had this passion to help people. But I didn't, when I looked around at the career options and also what I wanted my lifestyle to look like, I didn't see any sort of career where I could simply help and serve, as well as earn the income that I wanted to make for myself, to create that kind of financial freedom and life that I wanted. And so I just kind of went down the cookie cutter path of, you go to college, you get a degree, you use that degree, you climb the corporate ladder. And that's how I thought, I would create the lifestyle I wanted. And I just kind of forgot about the helping people aspect of what I wanted out of life. And as I was working, job after job, I started to get signs that maybe it wasn't right for me. Like, I got fired from my first job, I got laid off at the next job. And so it was kind of like the universe is indicating, like, hey, maybe don't work for people, try something different. And truthfully, in the back of my head, I had always been very entrepreneurial. I started selling, I did lemonade stands. I sold leftover Halloween candy. In college, I used to sell these counterfeit water bottles. And so I had always had that kind of entrepreneurial drive in me, but I kind of squashed it down because I didn't think that I was cut out for it. I was like, maybe I'm probably not smart enough, or I'm just not, I looked around at the entrepreneurs out there, Steve Jobs, Mark Zuckerberg, I guess, and didn't really see myself in that at all. And so I just was like, no, I'll just go the safer, easier route. What's laid out for me is already here. But as I started working for a couple of years, I just felt more and more stuck, and I felt more and more like I just had this longing and this desire and this calling to be doing something more meaningful with my life. But I didn't know what that was. And now looking back, I can say I did know what it was. I just didn't allow myself, or I didn't want to know what the answer was, because it was scary. It was, quote unquote, riskier. And so there was, I think, always a piece of me that knew what I wanted to do. I just didn't allow myself to go there and to let it be a reality for me. So then when I got sick was when I kind of had to reevaluate life and be like, this is not what I wanted for myself. What do I actually want? And, speaking to the point in time where I decided to leave corporate America for good, I would say I went on this solo retreat by myself to Lake Tahoe for 2 weeks, just to get away from everything and to just have a break and just be by myself. I had the feeling that just, not reading, not watching TV, not being around friends, not being around family, and just getting back to me was really important at the time. And it is something I encourage all of my clients to do, and all of my coaching and all my programs. It's like a requirement as part of my program to spend some time alone and to carve that out for yourself, because people come to me asking what do I do with my life? What am I here to do? And I can't tell them that, none of us have the answer for them. They have the answer. And so I really help guide them to that answer through a few different, strategies. But that's one of them, is just spending more time alone, which sounds really simple, but a lot of people have struggled to do it. So really, when I went to Tahoe, that's when I came up with the blog idea. And that's when I also said, I don't know how it's going to work right now, but I know that I can turn this into my business. And I made a vow to myself, in that moment, because I had gotten so sick that I had to stop working. So I was already out of corporate America at that point. Nice. And I just made a vow to myself then that I wasn't going to go back. I was going to do whatever it took to make this happen. And that was my no going back point, I guess. And it hasn't been easy, and it hasn't been, like a straight path to easy income by any means. But I also wouldn't trade it for anything, because I really do have the freedom and flexibility that I've always wanted, as well as I get to fulfill one of my purpose values, which is service and helping others. So pretty cool to be where I am now.
That's awesome. That's speaks to a lot of entrepreneurs, I think, and that journey is, like you said, never straight. But let me ask you this in this sort of context. This is interesting. When you were in that corporate setting, and you sort of knew in the back of your mind, but you didn't act on it, fear, a number of other things that just makes that a complex mess, right? But if you had a mentor, or if you had somebody, you got sick, and that was sort of the main, okay, that's the black and white shift, there's no gray there. It's like, boom. But if you had a mentor, do you think you would have acted on that earlier, or would it still have been a challenge for you? Was that being, nobody wants to be sick, but it was just a defining moment that if you'd had a mentor, maybe that could have inched you along sooner, faster.
Yeah, I 100% now I always have a mentor. I always have someone coaching me or guiding me. At that point, I hadn't honestly really even considered that too much. And the mentors that I did consider were in corporate America, and they were, the VPs and the directors, and thinking that's where I wanted to go. So I feel like it wasn't even in my frame of reference at that point to have a coach or a mentor that was outside of corporate America. So if someone had come into my life, maybe it would have expanded my options at that point. But truthfully, humans change through pain. That's the biggest catalyst for change is pain. Unfortunately, I wish it didn't have to be that way, and it doesn't. And that's again why I actually went and created my program, Path to Freedom, because I don't want people to have to get to that point where it's so bad that their suffering is almost insufferable. Which is what it was like for me. And I want to help avoid that, to get people on that path a little sooner. So it is, it's not, completely necessary, but I feel like for my journey, that was just the way I needed to hear it. Cause like I said, I got fired from my first job. I got laid off at the next one. You would think these points would have brought me to okay, let's, reality check here. Is this working for you? No, obviously not.
Yeah.
You're not enjoying it. You're obviously not contributing in a way that the companies need either. So what's going on here? It should have been time to reevaluate then. But like I said, I was really, I didn't identify with being an entrepreneur. I didn't see myself in that way because I was afraid of failing. I was totally afraid that I wouldn't be able to make it work. And then God forbid, failure, yikes to me, to younger Allie, that was definitely something I avoided at all costs.
Yeah. No, that's that fear factor. But also I know from corporate, I haven't been in corporate since Yahoo days, which is 2005 or whatever. But it's also that thing that, I'm comfortable, I'm good, I'm okay. Mm-hmm. And this next level is going to be scary and weird, and the whole fear thing.
Unknown.
The unknown, yeah, perfect. But also it's I heard an interesting definition of being an entrepreneur the other day. And, when I ask people, what's your definition, quickly they'll say things like, well, definitely somebody who takes a risk, hopefully calculated risk, not just all wacko, and there's a plan behind it, etc. But entrepreneurs also solve problems, and but then I heard this interesting sort of definition. I was curious what you thought about this, is that an entrepreneur is somebody who actually gives first. And if you switch it to somebody who's not an entrepreneur, they are in the mode of give me. So if you're corporate, it's like, give me, where's my benefits? Where's my health insurance?
Yeah, pay me and then I'll work.
Exactly. And entrepreneurs, yes, the risk, solve problems, all that, but give first. And I'm curious, how do you feel about that? Obviously you're in the space, but how has that been challenging for you because being company for corporate, you have your steady paycheck, etc. And now I'm going to switch it to like, I'm not sure. And I'm going to start giving away my secrets. I mean, paid, right?
Yeah, it is a scary transition. And I do have clients who come to me asking like, how much is too much free stuff to give away?
Exactly.
And I mean, through my own experience, I've just come to realize that there really is no limit to it. I mean, if you're willing to share first and give, and people find value in it, they're going to want more, regardless of what you've given them. There's always going to be people who want more, and then there are always going to be people who just want the free stuff and will leave, and that's just natural too. But yeah, I love that interpretation and definition of entrepreneur, because I think it's something that does differentiate the successful ones from the unsuccessful ones, the ones that, really are creating a bigger impact in the world. Because when you come from this place of service and providing value first, then you build that trust, and building trust is the biggest key to entrepreneurship, to successful entrepreneurship. If people don't trust you, they're not going to buy from you. And so if you haven't established that trust, you can't expect anyone to purchase from you.
Yeah. No, that's so true. Yeah, know, like, and trust, and that's an ongoing exercise. And now with social media, of course, we hear a lot about the branding and the intent-based branding. Kern talks about this a lot, and it's things that have been available to us, I think, all along. But obviously, technology is ever changing, and Facebook and Snapchat and God knows what platform whoever's on. It's got to be based on that adding concept, like value first, So that's cool. Well, awesome. This is great. We covered actually a number of cool topics here, which I'm excited about. One of the things that we didn't cover yet, which was really the title of this podcast, this broadcast, is, how to get started. Like, there's Susan. She has a really great experience, a life experience, business experience. She has no followers, has like no sort of entrenchment in the marketplace, is just starting out. And the title of this is really intended to help that person, somebody who's just starting out, or maybe somebody who's somewhat established, but they just haven't branched out really and said, I'm all in, kind of like what you did. What would be like the 3-4 things out the gate that they could do, or however you'd like to map that out?
Yeah. So, well, the first thing is to understand that it's really not about your experience. It's more about your confidence. So it's not about your abilities. It's about your confidence in your abilities. And so really the first step in understanding like that you can create clients wherever you are, if you're just starting out, if you have certification, or if you don't have certification, you can really get started by first, just lost my train of thought. So you can get started by first developing the confidence in your abilities. And so the way I do that is, if you're not certified, you can develop your own proprietary coaching methodology. And that's, again, something that I take people through in like a step-by-step process. But essentially what you want to do is create your own proven method that you can go out and teach and coach and guide. And to get your first client, they really need to see that you have the steps, that you have something that you can walk them through. I think where a lot of people get stuck in the beginning of coaching is that they're like, I can help you change your life, or I can help you, grow your business. But to most people, that's very vague and broad. And what they need to see to instill confidence in them and in you is steps. Like, take me from point A to point B, following these steps. If they can see that, then they can see the result in their mind. They can see themselves moving through that process. So it's really important to break it down. And again, like, take the knowledge, experience, passions, books, podcasts, whatever it is that you've consumed over your lifetime, and think about, who do I want to help and where do I want them to go? So who they are, where they're starting out, where they want to go, and then outlining the milestones that they need to hit in between the point A and the point B points. And that's like a really basic overview of what your own coaching methodology can look like. So I call it your PCM, your proprietary coaching methodology. Instead of going and getting certified, you can create your own process. So that's what you can start out with. And I think that instills so much confidence in yourself, because again, you're not just going out and saying like, who can I help? What can I do? And oh, okay, you have a problem. Let's talk about it. Like, let me help you through conversation. When you have your own step-by-step system, it instills confidence in you that you can do it. It instills confidence in your prospective clients that there's a system for it. And then once you have that, my advice would just be to go out there and start getting in conversation, telling people what you do and what you want to work on and what you want to help people with. And just start with like the people you know and your network. So many people, they think about starting a business and they automatically go to, I need, 50 clients in 1 year and I need to make this much money. Instead, just like start with right where you are, which is you have nothing. So just start with your first client. Just go out, like talk to your friends or family or their friends, tell them what you're doing, and literally be of service. Practice your coaching, test out your own methodology, test out your PCM, see if it works, see if it needs tweaking, go back and tweak things if it does. Then once you've worked with someone and you've had that like test experience and you've proven your system, then you can go out and use that as your own methodology. You've gained confidence because you've worked with someone and you've helped someone. You probably gained a testimonial from that. So it's really about just like, accomplishing that first step. Always thinking about the next best step and not thinking about how far you have to go and how much you have to do in order to get to this, point where you're passively creating income online, which is, what so many people are going for. But start with just where you're at with that next best step.
That right there is really a juicy one for me, because I deal, as I said, with clients, individuals, solopreneurs as well, and so they try and map out everything, which you said that's a good thing, to have like your program put together, but they try and envision themselves in these huge scenarios, which it's like baby steps, right? How do you eat an elephant? Bite at a time,
one bite at a time.
Yeah, and I think also what I've seen for myself, but also dealing with clients too, is, well, I'm no Ali, I'm not Gary Vaynerchuk, I'm not Tony Robbins, or so you do this like comparative analysis, and then you look on Instagram and everywhere people's success, and you don't know their full stories. Well, obviously big names like Gary V, etc. But how do you deal with this sort of self-loathing, I should say? Like, yeah, okay, so for a moment, Susan, in this example, she knows her experience, like, hey, I have 20 years of corporate or whatever, and but I want to branch out. My kids are a little older now, or maybe there's some other little more hairy scenarios, like I got divorced, or maybe I got sick like you. And so, but you know what, I am not the person on TV, or the person that's doing so well. I understand that I need to kind of use this program approach, and I need to baby step it, etc. But I'm not this person. I don't have any followers. Like, how do you break that person through to the next level? Because there's a lot of sort of self-loathing or worth it kind of thinking, right?
Yeah, well, the first would just be to like ask yourself a simple question, like how many followers would you need to create the business that you want? There really is no number, because it's totally different for every person. And so there really is, like, we're creating this scenario in our heads when we think of the belief that I don't have a big enough following. Okay, well, what is big enough? Your ego likes to be very vague with these statements. Yeah. So question it, like, well, what is big enough? Like, how many people would I need in order to create a successful business? And the truth is, you don't know, because there really isn't a number. It doesn't actually exist. So just first of all, starting with questioning your own beliefs around it, questioning like, what is this really true? Because there are so many examples of people who have built their businesses off of just word of mouth and referrals and conversations they have throughout their day. My coach just told me this recently. Your the amount of income you make is directly tied to how much time you spend in conversation. So, I mean, we're overcomplicating things, by thinking, oh my God, there's so many people online that I need to reach. Well, just start with, a conversation. And again, going back to kind of that belief around, I need X amount of followers, in order to be successful. If you are selling, a coaching service, that's a high ticket offer. It tends to be a high ticket offer because you're providing your time and your experience and the years of experience you have under your belt. And so you don't have to sell to very many people. I mean, if you sell a $1,000 coaching monthly package, I mean, if you find 5 people, that's a decent income for you to start off with. And 5 people, I mean, do you really need a list for that? Do you really need a social media following for that? I mean, my bet is that anyone listening could go home or write down on a piece of paper, like what they want to, how they want to help people, what they want to do to serve or solve a problem. And then think of, 20 people who they could get into conversation about what they're doing. And through that conversation, like 1 or 2 people will probably want to at least check it out with you and see what that's all about. And if not, they've got friends who they can refer you to. I mean, that's really how to get started and to gain momentum, to gain confidence, to gain testimonials. Like spending time creating content and trying to find people online, that's a long tail strategy, and it's important if you want to be location independent and you want to be online. But to get started, I really don't recommend people doing that because it takes so much time. It drains your energy. You don't see a lot of results from it. And so really the first few clients, get those under your belt, like one at a time, through conversations, through referrals, through your friends. And the scary part about that is people are always intimidated to share their business with their family or their friends. And I mean, I think you and I would both agree, you have to get over that if you want to start a successful business. So the time is now to bite the bullet and be excited about what you do. And if you're excited and you're passionate, that will come across in all of your conversations and people will want to help you. Yeah. So I think that's the biggest piece is people say, I don't have anyone in my network I can talk to. And that is simply not true. They'd rather tell strangers what they do than tell their friends and family who would like to support them. Yeah.
Yeah. That's really some killer tips, and I think, folks who are listening and watching is going to resonate with them. And the key there is, take action and start with the one. And, this is how you started and you speak from experience, but you create a nice system and now teaching others, which is awesome. And the one thing, I know we're coming up on time here, but the one thing I wanted to ask, because this also comes up, I'm sure you get this, is this sounds all great and I am ready to rock. However, I am 20 years experienced, I've done so much. What should I focus on to pick? Like, I could do like a coaching service, or I'm really a social media maven or whatever, and I'm a SEO person or a Facebook or whatever it is. Like, what should I start with? Because I can't just find somebody out of the blue for a very specific niche thing like cat juggling or something. It's got to be generic enough to where I can like offer my friends like, hey, I'm doing this workshop next week, or I'm doing this online thing. It's a Zoom meeting and I'm teaching people how to break free of like in my case, drinking Diet Coke every day, whatever. It's like, but it's also got to be some value where over time you can fine tune it and then eventually, start getting paid for those services. Like, how do you pick it?
Yeah, well, there's I have 2 thoughts on this. And the first one is not to put so much pressure on it and really just go out and experiment. Like when you're just getting started, your first year is really all about experimentation. Your niche, your ideal client, the problem you solve is going to change. It will. And to be honest, what I've seen now that I've been doing this for a year and a half or so, clients often, and people in general, often their first idea is the one that's the most comfortable. And the idea that it eventually switches to is the one that's truly aligned with what they want to do. And so I think if you really want to accelerate and avoid some of that like experimentation process, which, experimentation is good and it will help you learn what you like, what you don't like, who you like working with, who you don't like working with. So that's all really important to do.
Yeah.
But if you're able to be 100% honest with yourself, even if it scares the crap out of you, you'll have an easier time landing on that niche a little bit sooner. Just like as an example, I had a former client go through my program, and she, after she graduated, she was focusing on helping coaches with like coaching them on their technology setup, their website setup, and she wasn't being fully honest with herself about what her passions really were and what really excited her. And so, through a couple of weeks after the program, there's some, coaching calls we had. She realized that what she really wants to do is help people with like manifestation and abundance and meditation and mindfulness. But that part was scary to her. Like actually helping with that was scary to her. She was afraid how she'd come across to people. She was afraid, how she'd be judged and all that. So I think if you, experiment, like allow yourself to experiment and not get tied to just one idea, because it will change and that's totally fine. That's a good thing. You're going to learn again what you like and don't like, but then also just be really, really brutally honest with yourself, even if it scares you to do the thing that you really truly want to do and not just the thing that you're good at. I think that's the most important part.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. Ali, it's great to talk to you about these things, because I can see obviously you have a lot of experience in this and a lot of thought that goes behind it. But, it speaks to me in the sense of, having somebody who obviously has developed programs and has helped others, and, it adds sort of a level of momentum there, but also this sense of accountability and mentorship and direction and having somebody there. And I know you provide that through your program here. And we're looking again at the website here, Punch Drunk Soul. As we're coming up to the close here, I just wanted to ask you where they can reach you. Obviously, you have punchdrunksoul.com there. And in fact, let me just show you here real quick, guys and girls. This is how cool this software is that we're using right now. I can literally come in here and I can add what's called a banner, and I can add that right there, and then I can show it right there. We're looking at drunksoul.com. Yeah. So where can they reach you, Ali?
Yeah. So actually going off your last question too, if anyone is struggling to find clarity on what they want to do and find, the business idea that really inspires them and aligns with them, I have a free challenge actually coming up. So that you can check out. It's a 4-day challenge. Will help you get clarity on your soul aligned coaching idea and the steps to actually move forward and make that profitable and land your first client. So that's at punchdrunksoul.com/soulbiz, SOULBIZ. That gets started May 27th. So super excited for that. We've had thousands of women go through it and absolutely love it. And I'm doing it bigger and better each time. So it's going to be amazing. I'm always really excited for that. And then the next best place you can find me is just at Instagram, Punch Drunk Soul. And then my Facebook group, which you can find at punchdrunksoul.com/squad.
Oh, yeah, right. Yeah, I saw that. Very cool. Yeah, you have a lot of members in there. It's awesome. You've done such an awesome job. But
yeah, they're super engaged. I mean, it took a while to build. I won't lie. It has only really recently started to become a really engaged, really supportive community of women being willing to share each other's businesses, on their social media and giving feedback on opt-ins and things like that. So it was really cool to see it growing, but don't be fooled. It took over a year to get to that point. So
yeah, nothing overnight.
No,
there.
Definitely not.
That's great. Hey, I'm gonna try something with you, Ali. I want to do a high five with you. If you hold up your hand there, Yeah, high five. That's
There we
awesome.
go. I do that all the time on my client calls.
Oh yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I really appreciate it. I guess the final question, which I like to ask, and it's sort of a tongue in cheek because we've covered so much. But if there was that one thing, that last thing, as you're listening to this, as people are watching this, what's that one thing, or maybe a tip, or a last sort of takeaway that you would say, hey, do this? What would that be?
It would be just have fun and relax, because if you're not having fun, it's not worth it. So whatever you're trying to do, ask yourself, how can I make this more fun? That is bottom line for me.
Yeah, exactly. And the rest will follow. That's awesome.
Yeah.
It's been a real pleasure, Ali, here with you today, Ali Daniel, and really appreciate you taking time. I know you're hard to get down. You're so busy, and we're trying to schedule this back and forth, but we did it.
I know.
So,
yes, thank you. It was great. I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, thank you all, and we'll talk to you soon.
Bye.